The anime begins by revealing that at Kimberly Magic Academy, 20% of its students are consumed by the spell before they graduate. We then meet a boy, Oliver, walking toward the academy while admiring a tree known as Jack the Flowerless. Along the way, a talking flower tells him to relax despite the grim fate awaiting many, since today is the entrance ceremony. The boy brushes it off, assuming it's just something they tell newcomers to spook them. Though he's clearly uneasy, this isn't an ordinary school. On the path, he meets a girl who looks shaken by the same warning, and soon a red-haired boy steps in to explain that pride flowers, like the one speaking, absorb magic from the land and become corrupted, especially in this region. The girl thanks him, admitting she knows little about plants but loves magical fauna. Curious, the boy asks what her favorite kind is, and she casually replies she likes small, large, or slippery beasts. As they walk, Oliver sees a girl scolding a bespectacled boy for not watching where he's going. Then, a girl dressed in a striking outfit walks ahead, drawing everyone's gaze. Her presence leads some to wonder if she's a samurai. Oliver doesn't understand why, but he feels a strange premonition just from looking at her. Eventually, the students arrive at the academy in time for a magical beast parade featuring creatures like a dragon. The red-haired boy asks Oliver if he recognizes it, and he replies it's a Fafnir, a brilliant, scaled dragon unlike any other. But the girl from before doesn't seem thrilled. When asked, she says it's wrong to parade a troll alongside magical beasts. The red-haired boy argues it's fine, since trolls are dangerous and don't speak human language. The girl defends them, saying they only attack because humans encroach on their land. Their argument is interrupted when the glasses-wearing boy scolds them for being too loud, making it impossible to read. Oliver suggests they continue the discussion later and proposes introductions instead. Before they can begin, a mysterious spell takes control of the girl's body, forcing her to walk straight toward the troll. Chaos breaks out as the troll begins attacking guardian wolves. When it's about to strike the girl, the samurai-looking one steps in and faces the troll head-on, stunning the crowd. Another girl tries to distract the troll with magic, but it fails. They consider working together, but Oliver stops them, saying their spells won't be effective. Instead, he devises a plan involving a coordinated wind spell. At his signal, they unleash a powerful gust, which he amplifies with sound magic, creating the roar of a dragon. The illusion distracts the troll long enough for the samurai girl to land a devastating blow, defeating it in a single strike, though she injures her hand in the process. She thanks the others for helping create the perfect opening. Later, after entering the academy, the students are separated. Oliver ends up with the samurai girl and asks if she really charged the troll without a plan. She laughs and admits she didn't. Her katana isn't even sharp. He scolds her for being reckless, pointing out she could have died if his plan had failed. But instead of regret, she's overjoyed, feeling that being saved on her first day is a lucky sign. Though he can't quite understand her, Oliver admires her strength, even more so when he notices her hair changes color with emotion. Everyone is told to be silent as the headmistress prepares to speak. Thunder and light announce her arrival, and she reveals herself as Esmeralda. She opens by apologizing for the earlier incident and then dives into the brutal truth. Students will spend the next 7 years here, and the academy only values freedom and results. Live or die, it's their choice. She stresses that this is no metaphor. Only 80% make it out unharmed, while the remaining 20% are consumed by the spell. Their deaths, she says, have helped shape the prestigious reputation of the school, which was built upon a path of corpses. She advises the students to leave behind a legacy if they die, like a tiger leaving its skin. With that, she ends her speech and allows questions. The samurai girl raises her hand, only to deliver a bizarre piece of advice that stuns the entire room. Esmeralda wraps things up and teleports the students to the next area, where upperclassmen welcome them with food and drinks. While eating, the group gathers around Oliver. They begin introductions. Michella McFarlane, the elegant daughter of a noble house from southern Yelgland, is first. Then comes Katie Alto, a sweet exchange student from Farnland, who thanks the group for saving her. The red-haired boy introduces himself as Guy Greenwood, from a family of magical farmers and a plant expert. Then there's Pete Reston, the bespectacled bookworm from a non-magical, undistinguished background. Finally, we meet Oliver Horn, who inherited his magic from his grandfather, lives with relatives, and has both a sister and cousin already studying there. The others praise Oliver's Dragon War spell. Michella notes she's never seen anyone use sound magic like that. Oliver proudly explains that he's good at modifying spells creatively and is happy to have been useful. Last comes the samurai girl. Cheerfully, she introduces herself as Hibiya Nanao from Turikoisen Yamatsukuni. She explains she came to the academy by fate during a war. When she was about to die, a mage named McFarlane saved her and invited her to study magic. Michella is surprised. It might have been her father, who teaches part-time and had traveled to Asia in search of new students. Pete, noticing that Nanao doesn't come from a magical family, asks if she took the same exam he did. Nano admits she didn't take any exam at all. Michela explains that teachers can recommend one student each year to bypass the exam process, so maybe her father sponsored Nano. Pete is visibly upset, calling it unfair, which creates some tension in the group. Guy steps in to break the mood by pointing out it's time to eat. Katie awkwardly agrees, claiming she's starving. Pete grumbles but grabs a drink. Nano, ravenous, grabs a meat dish meant for 6, but Oliver stops her. She insists she can eat it all, but he nervously asks her to stay still and serves her a plate himself. Michela offers to teach her table manners. Nano looks at her food and says she feels like a princess. Katie laughs and asks Oliver to make her a plate too. Guy jumps in and teases Oliver for now serving 2 princesses, asking for his own as well. Oliver laughs nervously, wondering how he ended up in this situation. Pete grumbles about the noise, and Oliver scolds him for only eating meat, adding more vegetables to his plate. Pete complains, and Guy sneaks behind him to tease him about not appreciating vegetables. Pete pushes him off. Meanwhile, Nano devours her food and eagerly asks for more. That night, Oliver wakes up in his dorm and notices strange sounds. He remembers that chronogoblins live in the Academy's clocks and shoos them away. Looking out the window, he figures it's around 5 a.m. He checks on his roommate, Pete, and despite their earlier friction, covers him with a blanket before stepping out. Outside, Oliver walks through the peaceful morning, sensing the mana in the air. A mysterious voice suddenly calls to him, revealing herself as a Gwyn agent assigned to protect him. He's irritated that his cousin went this far, but the agent insists it's necessary. Oliver demands her name, and she reluctantly replies, Teresa Karst. He says he hopes to see her face someday. She says that day will come, but until then, he can call her whenever. The episode ends as Oliver strolls through the Academy garden and unexpectedly finds Nano bathing naked in a fountain. Shocked, he scolds her. She's in front of the boys' dorm, but she doesn't mind and says she's not bathing, just purifying herself from the blood of war. When he asks about her scars, she says they're battle wounds and apologizes for their unpleasant appearance. Before he can reply, Oliver suddenly experiences a vision, a golden-haired woman calling him Null and telling him his time has come. The next day at the Academy, Katie asks her friends if they slept well while waiting for the boys. Michela greets Oliver and Pete, who arrive walking, asking the same. Pete replies he supposes so. Oliver says luckily yes. Then Guy arrives running, almost overslept. Didn't know there were chronogoblins. Katie is surprised she didn't see any, but saw Nano waking up early. Nano replies she always wakes at 6. Guy notices she's now in uniform. Nano says it was delivered to her room. She's happy because now she looks more like a mage. Oliver hears but remembers how he saw her in the morning. Guy sees he's distracted and teases him, says it looks like he wet his pants. Oliver denies it. Pete interrupts, telling them to hurry to breakfast. Guy pats Pete's head. Pete gets mad. Nano says she's also looking forward to seeing how classes are. In magical swordsmanship class, Professor Leather Garland welcomes them. He asks what magical swordsmanship is. Pete raises his hand, some mock him. Pete answers it's the technique set within a theme, explains its history. Leather agrees, says they must use a theme and magic at 1 step and 1 spell away. Then he asks for volunteers. Nano offers. Richard does too, wants to prove his strength. Katie and Oliver think something bad will happen. Oliver offers to fight with Nano. Richard gets angry. Oliver says he fought the troll with her. Michela steps in, says she'll fight Richard. He agrees. The professor decides Nano and Oliver will be the first pair, Michela and Richard the second. He casts a spell to make the swords non-lethal. The duel ends with a hit to head or chest. Nano and Oliver get ready. Nano makes the first move. Oliver uses grave soil to destabilize her, but she surprises him. The duel intensifies. Nano cries. Oliver decides to go all in. Nano thanks him. The professor stops them. They accidentally broke the spell, need to rest. Michela asks Richard how many hits he could have dodged. He only glares. She withdraws. Richard accepts. Nano sadly watches Oliver walk away. She follows, tells him it was a splendid duel, wants to repeat it. Oliver ignores her, then angrily says he refuses, doesn't want to fight her again, doesn't want to kill her or be killed. Nano cries. Later, the group sits by the fountain. Guy complains about how much they have to learn. Michela says sorcery class was amazing. Guy disagrees. In the second class, Professor Frances Gilchrist scolded them. She hates athames, believes mages only need wands. She made them summon monsters. Pete says they were her familiars. Guy keeps complaining. Michela notices Nano is quiet. Katie gets excited, says now it's magical biology. In magical biology, Professor Vanessa Aldis says animals are resources. Katie is shocked. They must use magical silkworms. If they channel just enough magic, they spin cocoons. If too much, they become monsters. They get 10 tries, must succeed 5 times, no helping each other. Many fail. Michela succeeds easily, but burns a cocoon in time. Guy wonders why it's so easy for her. Michela asks Oliver how it's going. He says fine. She suggests helping Nano and he help Pete or Katie. Guy complains. Michela says fail 5 times and then they'll help. Pete says he's close to 5. Katie is doing well too. Guy burns another. The professor watches, glad no one attacked anyone. She checks Katie, sees she's slow, scolds her. Michela tells Oliver Nano is done, but most were failures. Katie has 9 successful. Oliver says what matters to her isn't passing, but saving lives. He gets distracted. The cocoon breaks, attacks. Michela and Oliver help her, but lose points for it. Katie apologizes to Oliver, says she grew up with magical creatures, was friends with a troll, can't stand to see them suffer. Oliver comforts her, says everything was better in her land, but now she's in the real world, where it's different. He values her kindness, says she's not alone. Later, Oliver goes to the fountain. Teresa tells him to choose his friends wisely. Those who can't kill a worm won't survive. He says he'll decide that himself. Teresa informs him he must visit Gwen's workshop. She won't be nearby after dinner. That night, the group gathers. Katie notices Naneo is depressed. Pete says he forgot his book. Oliver and Michaela offered to go with him. The others sense tension. Katie says the academy merges with the Labyrinth at night. Pete finds the book, asks if they're mocking him. They try to return, but a wall appears. The academy changes. Pete is worried. Oliver says it's normal. There should be patrols. They hear a voice. Pete runs. Oliver stops him. Ophelia Salvadori appears. Oliver says he knows her from her thesis. She hypnotizes Pete, fails to affect Michela or Oliver. She tries to convince Oliver, he resists. They flee, find a wall of bones, smell of death. Cyrus Rivermore appears, offers protection. Ophelia approaches from behind. The group is caught in an ambush. Pete panics and reaches for his weapon, but Oliver and Michaela quickly stop him, warning that any aggressive move could justify an attack from the others. Meanwhile, Ophelia mocks Cyrus, calling him a corpse defiler, and he retaliates by labeling her Salvador the Succubus, accusing her of even greater depravity. Their exchange escalates into a fierce battle, showcasing high-level magic that leaves Oliver and his friends in awe. Oliver urges them to use the chaos as a chance to flee, but Cyrus blocks their escape. That's when Nano steps in, saying she smells death in the air. As Ophelia and Cyrus summon magical beasts in a brutal clash, Nano breaks through Cyrus's barrier, vowing to protect her friends and urging them to escape while they can. She claims someone seeking death has found the right place for it herself, but Oliver, unconvinced, runs after her. Suddenly, Howling Godfrey, the student council president, intervenes with powerful fire magic, stopping the fight and declaring this is no way to welcome new students. Carlos Whitrow appears next, threatening Ophelia and greeting the group, before Alvin orders both senior students back to the Labyrinth for punishment. He and Carlos assure the newcomers that they're now safe. Few places are safer than Alvin's presence. Once out of the Labyrinth, the group reunites with the others. Katie admits she was terrified, but Oliver, still furious, scolds Naneo for her reckless self-sacrifice. Michela steps in and suggests Naneo explain herself. Naneo agrees and confesses she hasn't felt truly alive for a long time. She recalls a brutal battle where she was one of only 200 warriors fighting against Sumiyoshisa's 50,000. She killed relentlessly until she reached the general's camp and unknowingly slew his son, Yasasuna, whom she had challenged, seeking the best warrior. The general, grieving yet composed, chose not to torture her, saying brave warriors don't deserve such treatment. He wouldn't even ask her name. Letting her die as a nameless warrior would be his revenge. As the order to kill her was given, a mage saved her with magic, expressing interest in understanding the country and turning her into a mage because of her potential. In the present, Nanao says everything since then has felt like a dream, and she wants to fulfill her wish before it ends. When Oliver asks what her wish is, she explains it's not about revenge anymore, it's about a fight between equals who admire and respect one another, something she calls true happiness. Oliver disagrees, saying killing someone you admire isn't happiness. She admits it's twisted but says her duel with him gave her a taste of what she's longed for. Katie sums it up bluntly. Nanao's depressed because of Oliver's rejection. He tells Katie to hush, but Nanao confirms her point. To her, loving a sword or a person feels the same. Michela, trying to lighten the moment, proposes a non-lethal duel, but Nanao refuses. Her combat style only works when death is on the line. Michela then gives her heartfelt advice. Stop looking for a place to die and start choosing to live. If she can love someone, she should choose the person, not the sword. The others echo this, and Oliver asks her to promise never to throw her life away again, but instead to use her sword to protect. Touched, Nano apologizes, promises to learn how to live, and asks for their help. She then admits she doesn't understand anything in class, so they promise to help her with magic. Michela finishes by saying that the way their swords clashed proved Nano and Oliver were meant for each other. The next day, a cheerful Nano runs up to the group, apologizing again and encouraging them to learn something new. She clings to Oliver, which embarrasses him, saying she's following Michela's advice. He tries to suggest she doesn't need to be that close. She asks if it bothers him, and he says no, prompting Pete and Guy to tease him. Katie then approaches, subtly uncomfortable, telling Nano she shouldn't cling so much. Pete and Guy whisper that it clearly bothers her. In class, Professor Leather wraps up the lesson and opens the floor for questions. A student asks about magical swords, and Leather explains they're weapons that can kill from a distance when fused with magic. Only 6 are known to exist, and others are trying to create more. These are top-level secrets, and he won't confirm whether he wields one. The class is abuzz with speculation. Nano is mesmerized by the idea of an invincible sword and asks Oliver for more info, but he only knows what the professor said. Richard interrupts them, insisting they stop chatting and focus. Oliver tries to defuse the situation, but Richard keeps provoking him and challenges him to a duel. Oliver agrees, proposing a practice match. Before he heads out, Nano stops him, worried he'll throw the fight, and pleads with him to fight seriously. Richard, feeling insulted, grows angrier, but the professor breaks it up and reminds them all to focus. Later, Michaela tells Oliver that she and Richard were childhood rivals, always compared to each other. She admits Richard's fear of losing his position partly stems from her. Oliver offers to apologize to him, but she declines and asks him not to disappoint Nano. Suddenly, Pete bursts in. Katie ran off after overhearing that the troll from the parade is going to be executed. Katie confronts a man trying to justify the execution, but she refuses to accept it, and he casts a pain spell on her. Oliver and the others arrive and recognize him as Darius Grenville. They also object to the execution. Before Darius can strike again, Milligan interrupts, criticizing his harsh teaching. She reveals someone filed an objection to the execution. Then Leather arrives to scold Darius, saying they can't kill the troll before the investigation concludes. Darius fumes, warning that delaying will only get Katie killed, and she tries to speak, but is silenced by another spell. Milligan gently asks how she feels and assures her she supports demi-humans too. The scene ends with the group receiving a letter. Richard has formally challenged Oliver and Nano to a duel. The next day at the academy, Katie and Milligan try to befriend the troll. Milligan explains that the troll was once used to people, but after the parade incident, it stopped interacting with humans. Katie kindly offers it food, hoping to reassure it. From a distance, other students mock her for trying to befriend a troll. Meanwhile, Nano is with Michaela, who asks if she's really going through with the duel. Nano confirms she must accept an honorable challenge, and Oliver agrees it's the best option. Still, he reminds them that regardless of the outcome, the conflict with Andrews will continue. Guy is excited but forgets where the duel will be. Pete, annoyed, reminds him it's tomorrow in the Labyrinth's first floor. Later in class, Katie's friends hear more students ridiculing her. Guy fumes and wants to fight back, but Oliver stops him, saying it's pointless here. Pete wants to stay out of it, but notes that the bullies are being deliberately loud. Guy asks if they'll just tolerate it. Just then, Katie arrives and the insults worsen. They call her a troll imitator, not even human. Guy nearly snaps, but it's Oliver who strikes first, using magic to silence one of them. Chaos erupts as the group prepares to fight. Pete tries to stop them, but it's too late. Later, Michaela is stunned they ended up in the punishment room, though the group is proud of how many they took down. Michaela expected this from Nano and Guy, but not Oliver. Embarrassed, he lets them tease him. Katie apologizes, blaming herself for their punishment, but her friends quickly reassure her. Guy even says he's proud. Katie smiles in gratitude, but Michaela warns that while their actions were right, the consequences are serious. Most first years now dislike them, and Andrews will take advantage during the duel. At night, as they head to the duel site, Oliver urges his friends to fight if they sense danger. They nervously walk through the labyrinth, Pete wondering if it's a trap. Oliver doubts it, trusting Andrews' sense of honor. They arrive at a coliseum packed with students. They're told to sit and wait, as an exhibition match comes first. Oliver tells Michaela to protect the others. In the arena, Andrews demonstrates his skill by effortlessly defeating a wolf beast, impressing the crowd. Nano asks what's happening. Oliver explains it's kobold hunting, an old mage tradition banned by activists. Oliver questions Andrews about the duel, only to be told the match will be a kobold hunt instead, and whoever kills the most wins. Nano is unfamiliar with kobolds, while Andrews is an expert. Oliver is tempted to throw the match to keep the peace, but things escalate when Richard's friends cruelly torture a kobold for fun. drawing laughter from the crowd. Enraged, Nanatsu silences everyone, condemning the sadism on display and questioning their morals. Bottles are thrown at her, one hitting her in the head, but she stands firm, telling Oliver they should leave. When she tries, Andrews threatens her, so she reconsiders. Maybe this is the more honorable fight. Suddenly, a different beast is released instead of a kobold. It kills its handler and slaughters several students. Oliver is shocked. It's a Garuda, a divine familiar. He and Nanatsu prepared to fight, questioning whether Andrews knew. Terrified, he claims he didn't. Students flee or fall, but the Garuda advances, locking the doors behind it. Oliver warns Andrews to stay calm, or he'll be the first to die. Andrews tries to flee and is chased, but Nanatsu intercepts the monster, declaring herself its opponent. The duel begins. Nanatsu struggles against the Garuda's immense power, and the others want to help, but Michaela stops them, honoring her promise to protect the group. Nanatsu is nearly crushed, but Oliver intervenes with a spell, drawing the Garuda's attention. He gets injured trying to fight it and retreats to heal, running into Andrews. Oliver tells him to flee, but also says Nanatsu had wanted to see him fight. Back in battle, Oliver and Nanatsu realize they may not win. Oliver plans to distract the beast so Nanatsu can land a final blow. The plan works briefly, he wounds it. Nanatsu moves in, but the Garuda recovers too fast. Oliver throws himself between her and the monster to give her an opening, willing to die. At the last moment, Andrews joins the fight, saving them both and buying Nanatsu time. Though wounded, she decapitates the Garuda in one strike. The crowd watches in awe. Oliver thanks Andrews, crediting the victory to him. Nanatsu also expresses her gratitude. Andrews, humbled, says his wind magic as an Andrews hair is powerful, and though still afraid, he's ready to risk his life as a mage. His greatest fear is being a disgrace to his family. The group reassures him his courage was real. They now welcome him as a friend and comrade, and Andrews, deeply moved, feels accepted at last. That night, Teresa approaches Oliver, ashamed for not protecting him during the Coliseum incident. He reassures her, saying no one could have predicted a Garuda attack and that danger is ever present at Kimberly. Determined, she insists on protecting him at all costs. The next day, Katie visits the troll with breakfast, and from a distance, Milligan tells the group that Katie has been coming daily. Their patience pays off when the troll finally begins to eat, prompting Katie to shout with joy. Later in biology class, Professor Vanessa ensures everyone can now distinguish Garm from war guts. The class ends in collective disgust, leaving everyone dreading lunch. Pete complains he's lost his appetite, and even the usually unfazed Guy agrees. They notice other students are now avoiding them, and no one mocks Katie anymore, but Oliver remains uneasy, suspecting the Garuda attack was orchestrated against semi-human sympathizers. Michelle proposes that it could have been retaliatory, stemming from the parade incident, but Katie, apologetic, denies any knowledge. Oliver assures her she's not suspected, though he warns that the event could trigger a larger conflict. The others express a desire to uncover the truth, but Oliver insists they stay uninvolved, seeing it as a student dispute blown out of proportion. Michelle points out that things would have escalated if someone had died, but at least Nanatsu gained recognition for her bravery. Guy is annoyed by her sudden popularity, and Katie gets frustrated that Oliver remains unrecognized. Michelle jokes that she could go on about it all night, prompting groans from the boys. Pete admits Nanatsu's swordplay is captivating, while Oliver's subtle spellwork lacks flair, much to Oliver's dismay. Michelle counters, saying only seasoned mages can appreciate his style, and annoyed by the lack of credit, decides to reward him with a kiss. Oliver refuses, but Nanatsu cheerfully offers to take over. Just as he's about to kiss her, his sister appears, surprising everyone by kissing him goodbye. Michela asks who she was, and Oliver explains she's his cousin. Nanatsu, still expecting her kiss, is left hanging. Later in alchemy class, Professor Darius Grenville sternly warns students to follow the recipe precisely. Guy, uneasy about the professor's past with Katie, just wants to finish. Oliver steps in to help, warning of hidden traps in the recipe. He notices Pete making a mistake, but before he can stop him, Oliver casts a spell that prevents an explosion by flipping the cauldron. Darius praises his quick thinking and notes his magical prowess, saying he'll remember his name, but then ominously advises him to choose his friends more wisely. After class, the group congratulates Oliver, and Pete thanks him for the save. Then Richard warns Oliver to be cautious with Darius, claiming the professor exploits talented students by stealing their work. Later, the group meets with Maken, the student behind Katie's incident, who apologizes at Richard's request. She explains she acted under her parents' influence, who view activists as shameful. Guy is furious, and Katie and Pete call her out for cowardice. Oliver asks who else was involved, but she claims she acted alone and didn't expect the troll to lose control. Pete doubts her, and the others worry about the troll and the spell's side effects. Katie, refusing to discuss it further, goes to see the troll, hoping to uncover the truth. Though he trusts her, the troll hesitates to speak. Meanwhile, Oliver trains Nano in spellcasting. She struggles to channel her power effectively due to her combat-focused upbringing. He encourages her to harmonize her inner energy with the world around her and demonstrates his technique. Elsewhere, Katie continues coaxing the troll. He finally warns her not to return, revealing someone dangerous is behind everything. Nano, frustrated by her magical limits, confides in Oliver, who is intrigued by her belief that the troll was trying to escape, not attacking. They rush to his cage, but Katie is missing. Only her Athame remains. The troll says someone took her to a dark, deep place where he once was. Oliver suspects the Labyrinth, where semi-human intelligence experiments might have continued despite being banned. He explains that some activists tried teaching trolls to speak, but the project was officially shut down. However, someone appears to have continued the research deep inside Kimberly. Inside the Labyrinth, Oliver deduces that the troll's brain was altered by someone with expert knowledge in semi-human anatomy. When the group prepares to seek help from Alvin or Carlos, they are ambushed and brought to Milligan's lab. There, she reveals her disappointment at the Garuda's death, a beast she painstakingly tamed. Nano realizes Katie is her captive, and Oliver demands answers. Milligan says Katie is key to her research, as she made the troll speak. She plans to study Katie's brain, assuring them she won't leave a scar. She reveals that by examining a brain, she can identify magical potential and unveils her twisted experiments. Nano demands Katie's release, but Milligan refuses, triggering a battle with her basilisk. Oliver's swift spellcasting saves Nano. Milligan explains that the basilisk was a gift from her parents and killed 5 of her siblings before accepting her. She proudly reintroduces herself as a semi-human biology expert and militant activist, known to some as Milligan the Serpent's Eye. Nano and Oliver attack Milligan head-on, but not before Oliver warns her about the cursed eye. Oliver's magic is overpowered by Milligan's immense strength, and her sword skills, even outmatching Nano's agility, force Oliver to save her from injury. He then attempts a new strategy. Though he manages to surprise Milligan, she easily repels it. While fighting Nano, Milligan admires her talent and says she'll have to use magic to face her properly. She uses magic to create distance between herself and the two of them, but Oliver, using his wit, finds a way to stop her. Suddenly, Nano tries to take her by surprise, but Milligan traps her by weakening the ground. Still, Nano manages to deflect the blow. Oliver is amazed. Even though Nano didn't realize it, she sensed the spell and redirected it with her sword. The battle continues. Milligan says she's enjoying it. She admits they've managed to entertain her. Nano and Oliver then coordinate an attack, but Milligan activates her second enchanted eye. Realizing it, Nano pushes herself to exceed the speed of light. With her sword, she cuts off Milligan's hand. Oliver is shocked. She unintentionally calculated space-time and outpaced the curse. He concludes that no attack can match the speed of Nano's sword. It's an unstoppable ability, using a magic sword different from the 6 known ones, perhaps a 7th unknown sword. They use healing spells to save Milligan's life, as she never intended to kill them. Oliver and Nano rescue Katie and take her to the dorms. Seeing the fight is over, Nano demands her victory kiss. Just as Oliver is about to comply, Godfrey and Witro arrive. They are worried. The upperclassmen say they came after receiving an anonymous tip. Godfrey is impressed they defeated Milligan. Witro is saddened by the betrayal of a superior. Oliver responds that Katie was the one most affected. Later, they explain everything to Katie. She listens carefully, but becomes sad. Oliver believes Milligan initially wanted to help her, teaching a girl who shared her ideals. Michelle agrees. Everything changed when Katie succeeded more than Milligan. The troll began to speak to her. That's when Milligan lost control. Katie asks about the troll's fate. Oliver says, ironically, being a talking troll makes him unique. They won't get rid of him. Katie smiles, saying everything ended well. She cheers Oliver up and kisses him on the cheek. She then kisses Nano, who is thrilled. With a big smile, Katie says it doesn't matter what happened. They won. The troll lived. Her friends watch her in awe. Guy, Pete, and Michaela don't understand her energy, but agree with her. Katie adds that the first thing she wants is to slap Milligan. Then she'll think about how to deal with her. The academy is full of people like her. She needs to adapt if she wants to change things. Before graduating, she'll make the academy a kinder place. Oliver hears her and begins to cry. She apologizes, thinking she said something silly, but he tells her not to. He cries because he finally protected something. That sweet girl can remain that way. Days later, Guy complains that Katie is already fighting with Aldous. The group is surprised when Professor Darius appears in the hallway. He wants to speak to Oliver alone. Later, Darius explains they were trying to retrieve a student's research. Normally, someone else would do it, but this case is exceptional. The student got too close to the spell and died. Oliver asks if the spell consumed him. Darius confirms. That's the most honorable death for a mage. A consumed spell always leaves knowledge behind. Then we see Darius defeating monsters with ease. They are stronger than the Garuda. He uses no incantations. Oliver is astonished. They reach a room with an active portal. Darius is glad it's still open. He explains the monsters devoured each other. Only the ones he just killed survived. Oliver asks if Darius knew about Milligan's experiment on the troll. Since he disposed of it quickly, Oliver suspects he wanted to erase evidence. He also reveals he has proof Darius supplied semi-humans to Milligan. Darius admits it. It was to pursue his dream. He wants to eliminate human stupidity. Since the beginning, there has been 1% of geniuses and 99% of fools. He wants to change human intelligence. He admits he now struggles to find semi-humans for experiments. He then asks Oliver to help him. He says Oliver knows too much and lacks real talent. Oliver disagrees. Darius insists. He's speaking to him because he believes Oliver is worthy. Oliver asks one question. Where was Darius on the 8th night of the 4th month, year 1525? Darius is surprised. He didn't expect relatives of that woman to still live. He's irritated. Oliver thanks him for not changing. He's still the same Darius he has hated for 7 years. Before the battle begins, Oliver uses his special skill. He sees every possible future. In all of them, he dies. Still, he believes the future isn't fixed. There must be one where he wins. He chooses to follow that path. He summons his 4th magic sword, Angustevia, which crosses the abyss. It wounds Darius. The professor is shocked. He thought the sword was lost. Oliver says Darius took many things, but not everything. He now seeks revenge for his mother. She was tortured by a pain spell. It made her feel 128 different kinds of pain. Oliver threatens him. He tells Darius to start thinking of the words that might earn him forgiveness. He casts a spell of agony. Darius complains. He says this can't be done to a professor. Oliver ignores him and casts another pain spell. We see Darius torturing Oliver's mother in the past. Oliver continues his torment. Darius still says nothing. Oliver warns that he has only reached 57 types of pain, not even half. Furious, he demands Darius speak. Darius, sobbing, begs him to stop. Oliver accepts and kills him with his sword. Wen, who was watching, asks if it's over. Oliver says yes, but tells his sister not to come closer. He doesn't want even a speck of that filth to touch her. His brother asks about his condition. Oliver says he can use the power twice more. A 3rd time would kill him. His brother orders him never to use it again. Teresa then reveals her identity. She swears loyalty to Oliver. He is crowned in front of all his followers. He will rule and guide them until every traitor who hurt his mother is dead. Oliver swears it. Vanessa Aldis, Francis Gilchrist, Enrico Forghieri, Demetrio Aristides, Baldia Mueza Camilli, and Esmeralda, the headmistress who dealt the final blow, they will all die. He remembers what Nanatsu said. One should not wield a sword for revenge. Now he will find out if she was right or not. One night, a secret council gathers, those Oliver is fated to assassinate. Vanessa nonchalantly kills a man mid-meeting, grumbling about his taste. Esmeralda announces that after 4 months of silence, they must assume Darius is dead. Francis doubts it, convinced he wouldn't fall so easily. Enrico proposes it was murder, possibly by someone at the table. Vanessa agrees, only the 6 of them or Garland could have done it. She adds that McFarlane might be capable too, prompting Theodora to appear with a dry remark. Esmeralda silences him and closes the meeting with a warning. If anyone here was involved, they've made her an enemy. Before leaving, Vanessa muses that perhaps a student was responsible. Esmeralda merely replies that the fool will drown in despair. Elsewhere, Pete wakes from a nightmare, ripping off his pajamas in a panic. Oliver tries to help but is met with a flying book. The next day, Pete is withdrawn and the girls worry. Katie suspects Guy upset him, sparking an argument. Pete explodes and storms off. Meanwhile, Michaela spots her cousin Stacy Cornwallis, who coldly ignores her. Michaela admits she's worried. Stacy has avoided her since classes started. When the others tease her about family issues, Dustin Hedges interrupts to announce broomstick lessons. Katie is thrilled, but Nanatsu seems uneasy. She confides that while she's used to flying beasts, she's never tried a broom. Oliver whispers that brooms don't fly, leaving her stunned. Inside the broom tower, they discover brooms are living beings, Scopae from the Bisum genus, that feed on mana and choose their riders. Many brooms flock to Nanatsu, drawn to her massive mana, but she chooses a rebellious one. Instead of forcing it, she gently confesses her preference. Moved, the broom finally accepts her, and she soars off with stunning skill. Watching her, Oliver is certain it once belonged to his mother. After class, Nanatsu is euphoric, already looking forward to next time. Katie, though grounded, feels connected to her broom. Pete, frustrated, refuses help. prompting Oliver and Guy to act like doting parents, until Pete storms off again. Katie wonders aloud about Darius, and Michaela repeats a rumor about him vanishing in the labyrinth. Suddenly, Theodore McFarlane appears, embracing his daughter and embarrassing her. Pete is starstruck. Theodore wrote his favorite book. Michaela scolds him for abandoning Nano, and he sheepishly says he trusted Michaela to handle it. He then announces he's their new temporary alchemy professor. In class, Theodore asks who's read Journey to the East. Stacy says up to volume 12. Pete eagerly raises her hand. She's read them all thrice. Impressed, Theodore promises her a gift from Asia. Later in magical engineering, the shady-looking professor Enrico Forghieri gives them dangerous magical traps to disarm. With time running out, Oliver urges everyone to run. Pete, feeling sick, can't move, so Oliver shields her from the trap's burst of snakes. Enrico laughs, praises their effort, and rewards them with magical popsicles that double as antidotes. Katie tries to scold him, but is held back. Afterward, Oliver pulls Pete aside. He says he knows Pete changed sex. Pete explains she had a strange dream and woke up with breasts. Oliver believes she's a reversee, someone who shifts between male and female, and congratulates her. He explains that magical affinities differ by gender. To test it, Pete casts a lightning spell and is stunned by its power. Just then, Witcher appears, having overheard them. He invites Pete to a special meeting and gives her a letter. That night, Oliver escorts her to the Labyrinth, where they meet Godfrey, who admits he's also attending. Along the way, he reflects on how dangerous Kimberly is and how hard he's tried to change it over 5 years. Oliver finds him genuinely admirable. At the meeting, Godfrey explains it's a safe space for those with gender-linked magic. Nervous, Pete is welcomed warmly. A show begins. Oliver's brother plays the violin while Witcher sings with enchanting grace. Pete asks if they can keep sharing a room, just with a curtain between beds. Later, the others complain they had to practice alone, but they're happy the boys are back. From afar, someone watches them, clearly not pleased by how close they'd grown. Early the next day, Guy is surprised to see mages already flying overhead. Michaela explains broom sports are popular, especially team battles. Nana worries when someone falls mid-flight, but Michaela reassures her there are safety mages below. Suddenly, Tullio Rossi appears, the same boy who had been spying on them. He says he already knows them, especially Nano, whom he praises. After a brief clash with Michaela, he cryptically tells Pete they'll meet again soon, leaving the group confused. Later in fencing class, Oliver wins his match easily. Then it's Pete versus Tullio. Pete hesitates, and the match ends quickly with Pete's defeat. Tullio calls him a damsel and mocks him for always being protected by others. The words sting, and afterward, Pete asks his friends for extra training, insisting they include magic in future matches. Oliver and Michaela argue over what style to teach him until Guy proposes a compromise. Michaela teaches offense, Oliver defense. During training, Oliver starts with distance judgment. Pete falters, and Oliver defeats him again, explaining that real victory comes from mastering swordplay before relying on magic. He adds that knowing when not to strike is a crucial third path. At lunch, Pete is reflecting when Tullio reappears, offering him a faster method to get stronger. Michaela shuts him down, but Tullio accuses them of monopolizing attention and challenges the entire class to a competition, a contest to determine the strongest first year. Students will duel for medals, losing all means elimination. In a week, the top 4 will face off in the finals. Stacy is the first to accept, despite Faye's concern. Faye joins too, not wanting her to go alone. Nano also steps forward, followed by Oliver and Michaela. Tullio starts the event immediately. The first challenger is Evelyn Auditz, the Swift, who prefers to be called Evelyn Tempest. She duels Nano, confident in her speed. Nano calmly deflects her spell with a single move, stunning everyone. Back with the group, Michaela tells Nano and Oliver that all 3 of them should reach the finals. That evening, Pete thanks Oliver for his help. After Pete leaves, Oliver meets Teresa, who relays an invitation from Shannon and Gwen, but he chooses to walk the labyrinth alone. Inside, he encounters Ophelia, who insists she only wants to talk. She admits to occasionally returning to the academy for food and says he and his friends attract attention. When she asks about the Garuda fight, he says he wouldn't want to repeat it. She laughs. Godfrey said the same and says she likes them both. Eventually, Oliver reaches a hidden meeting spot where his siblings are waiting. He asks Gwen about Whitrow. Gwen admits they aren't friends but share a history. He tells Oliver he's welcome here. Oliver mentions Ophelia, prompting Shannon to want to pursue her, but Gwen stops her. She's likely long gone. Gwen then asks if Oliver truly believes Nano used a 7th magic sword. Oliver isn't certain, but his instincts say yes. Gwen notes that Oliver's charisma reminds him of someone. That and the way Nano's broom responded suggests she's something special. Shannon teasingly asks if he likes her. He doesn't answer. Wynn encourages him to follow that feeling but remain true to himself and loyal to his friend. On his way back, Oliver notices Tullio tailing him. Tullio, irritated that Oliver overshadows him, challenges him to a half-power duel. No blood, but no mercy. Oliver accepts. Their duel is fast and brutal. Tullio favors dirty tricks and unorthodox fighting, while Oliver sees through each move. Wounded, Oliver thanks him for exposing his limits and declares he'll win in 8 moves. Tullio attacks in a fury but ends up trapped by his own tricks. Defeated, he hands over his medal, frustrated to have lost to the one he most wanted to beat. Before leaving, Oliver tells him his unique style has potential but needs refinement. He advises Tullio to study the basics. Tullio scoffs, but Oliver admits that while he won, none of it was innate, it was all borrowed. He asks Tullio to take care of his medal. Tullio mocks him but can't help wondering how long it would take to match Oliver's skill. Later, Teresa congratulates Oliver, but he's not proud. His inexperience showed. She notes that if he were like the night he killed Darius, Tullio wouldn't have come close. She offers herself as a whetstone to sharpen him again, even suggesting he kill her to regain his edge. Oliver, unfazed, tells her to stop blushing and promises never to treat her as a tool. Flustered, she runs off. Meanwhile, in the Labyrinth, Tullio is immediately challenged again. Another duel, another test. Back in his room, Oliver warns Pete before entering, but inside he finds him in pain. Concerned, Oliver makes him remove his shirt to apply a healing spell, using his mana to adjust Pete's internal flow. He explains it won't remove the pain entirely but will help for now. Pete thanks him, and Oliver gently tells him his body is suffering. His female form isn't yet adapted to magic. He needs to learn how to channel it properly. Pete, surprised at how easily Oliver helps, asks if he's done this before. Oliver says yes. Mana flow issues are common, especially during illness, puberty, or pregnancy. He's reminded of helping his mother through it. Once the issue is resolved, Pete thanks him again, but reminds him they should sleep. They have class early. Before going to bed, Oliver confesses it's getting harder to keep this secret from their friends. The next day, Pete decides to come clean. His friends are thrilled for him and congratulate him, but Pete doesn't feel it's something to celebrate. He's unsure of what to do next. Michaela, placing a hand on him, says the first thing is to use what he now has. She explains that with his new female form, he now has a uterus, a magical organ, sometimes called a witch's second heart, capable of storing mana. If he ever runs dry, the uterus will automatically release reserves. She recommends he train to access it by will. For now, she teaches him to open it. As Pete does, he's overwhelmed by a surge of power and unexpected pleasure. Michaela explains it's the release of stored mana, dramatically boosting his strength. Nana, watching in awe, asks if she as a woman can do the same. Katie, meanwhile, asks Pete if he likes cute clothes, suggesting something frilly. Pete, however, refuses to dress like a girl. Just then, Tullio arrives to complain. Since his duel with Oliver, he's been on a losing streak. Acknowledging his weakness, he announces he's withdrawing from the competition. Oliver asks if he's faced someone else. Tullio warns him to be careful. Some contestants are truly dangerous, and asks Pete if he's gotten stronger, then leaves. In fencing class, Pete faces Stacy, who's determined to get revenge after he humiliated her. Professor Garland begins the match, requiring them to continue until time's up, regardless of points. Stacy quickly takes the upper hand, while Pete's friends call out advice. He tries tapping into his reverse powers, but struggles. His control is still shaky. Stacy overpowers him and scolds him for letting it get to his head, remembering how he embarrassed her in front of her uncle, Theodore. She keeps attacking even after he's down, until Katie says she doesn't want to watch anymore. Oliver reassures them Pete hasn't given up, and he hasn't. Pete uses Stacy's overconfidence to his advantage, slipping past her guard and reaching her neck just as time runs out. Garland ends the match. Pete returns to his friends, disappointed he didn't land a single hit, but the others cheer him on. He never gave up and nearly scored with the Rizit style. Guy tells him he was close. Even Tullio shows up to praise him, admitting that Pete's improved more than most. Inspired, Tullio decides he should learn the basics too. Later, Katie is seen talking to the caged troll when a crow drops a scroll. Inside is a map to Milligan's old workshop. Katie is eager to go, saying it's Milligan's way of apologizing and a rare chance to get a lab as first years. She dreams of using it as a secret base, but Michaela warns of the dangers in the labyrinth. Oliver agrees. Katie argues that semi-humans die every year and magical creatures are mistreated here. She wants to change that by becoming a famous researcher, but she needs a space where she can raise creatures without interference, and asks for their help. The group hesitates, but Nano steps forward first, saying she sees the light in Katie's eyes and hopes it brightens the world. Moved, Katie hugs her. Michaela promises to support her too, and soon everyone agrees. When Oliver stays quiet, they all turn to him. He says he'll join, but only if they all agree that safety comes first. That night, the group sets out. Guy fears getting lost, but Katie reassures him. Oliver apologizes for disagreeing. There are things to fear here. Michela agrees. The labyrinth is dangerous. Along the way, they encounter beasts, but Katie is thrilled by the magical fauna. When they reach a zone full of Archonchus, she halts them. She's brought a special incense to put them to sleep, impressing everyone with her prep. As the incense burns, Nanao senses something behind them. Suddenly, the ground trembles and a thick fog rolls in. They have to rush through the Archonchus, still awake. Though most escape unharmed, Guy complains he was hit. Then they smell something delicious and follow it to a group of students at a campfire. They've stumbled upon the Labyrinth Gourmet Club, whose leader warmly invites them to eat. The group sees the piles of hunted beasts but declines, wishing them well. Further away, Guy says the club is famous, especially their leader. Michela reveals his name is survivor Kevin Walker, who vanished in the labyrinth for 6 months and returned only after his funeral. Pete is in disbelief. Soon after, a girl confronts them for wandering in dangerous areas, but then offers them food for cheap. Her goal? To keep them alive so they'll become loyal customers. The group loads up the supplies, grumbling about the hike, until they finally reach the lab. It's huge, stunning everyone. Katie proudly announces it's one of the best first-floor labs, and now it's theirs. She asks each of them what they want to use the space for. That night, over dinner, Guy says it feels like camping. Then they notice Michaela is quiet. She says she's fine, just wants to propose something. Naming the group, she's had so much fun with them, she wants to make it official. Everyone agrees. Nanao suggests they draw their swords in a circle, a tradition from her homeland called the Rose of Swords. It's a warrior's vow that what they've built will never fade, no matter the future. She proposes that as their name. Everyone agrees. Oliver silently promises to burn this moment into his memory, so its colors never fade. The boys decide to spend the night in the new workshop, enjoying the peace. Pete comments that the change of scenery is refreshing. Oliver and Guy thank Katie for securing the place, only to realize she's already fast asleep. Michela suggests the rest follow suit. Elsewhere in the academy, Stacy stands alone, vowing to prove she's more than just Michela's replacement. Faye listens quietly and asks her to come back inside. The next morning, Nanao thanks Oliver for waking up early to help her train. He tells her there's no need. He also wants to take advantage of the perfect spot. Before they begin, he asks if she's been able to recreate the technique she used against Milligan. Embarrassed, Nanao admits she hasn't managed it again. Oliver reassures her it's not something that happens by chance. They should focus on spells for now. Nanao hesitantly asks to practice swordplay first, but Oliver refuses, saying she needs to master spellcasting before combining it with blades. His goal is to help her reach the point where magic and swordsmanship merge as one. When she asks if that's the end goal, he says no, just the starting point for real mages. Excited, Nanao is eager to train. Suddenly, Guy screams. Katie has arrived with the troll. She scolds Guy for yelling, which frightened the creature. Guy argues he was the one scared. Michela asks if Katie went out alone. Katie says she didn't go far, and the troll came on its own. But then Milligan appears, revealing she brought it herself. Seeing everyone alarmed, she insists she's just here to help. Katie couldn't have done it alone. Later, Pete wakes up and can't find his glasses. When someone hands them to him, he thanks them until he realizes it's a hand with an eye in the palm. He screams. The others rush in, only to see it's Milligan's creation, Millahand, formed from the hand Nanao once severed. The group shares tea with her. Michela asks why she gave the workshop to Katie. Milligan says she has no hidden agenda. She just sees Katie's potential. She jokes that when Katie's rich, she'll take advantage. And if Katie wants to care for the troll, there's no better place. Katie, moved, tells him she's always wanted to look after him. The academy even approved it. The troll, now named Marco, says he likes being with Katie. Michela and Oliver approach him, curious. Katie leaps on him to stop him from spilling secrets. Marco knows all their names. Katie talks about them often. Oliver gives him a fist bump, officially welcoming him as a friend. Milligan shows them the closest entrance to the lab, warning that the labyrinth has a will of its own. The entrance might not always be accessible. She reveals that one condition of receiving the workshop was reaching it without her help. Since they succeeded, she's satisfied and departs, reminding them to stay sharp. Katie then announces the second day of exploration. They head out with Marco. Oliver worries about rumors spreading due to their bond with the troll. Michela warns that they're nearing the second level of the labyrinth, the animated forest, known for its dense magical fauna. She suggests turning back. But before they can decide, Stacy appears, blocking their path. She demands her medals from Michaela. Marco, sensing a threat, becomes agitated, and Katie struggles to calm him. Stacy proposes a 2-on-2 duel. Michaela accepts. Nanao eagerly volunteers, but Oliver hesitates, concerned that Stacy and Faye have known each other for years. Then, a new student arrives, Albright. He proposes a 3-on-3 match instead. Nano asks who he is, and Oliver recognizes the name. His family are famous mages. Stacy questions why he's joining her side. He says if she doesn't want him, they can make it a free-for-all. When she refuses, he mocks Oliver, calling him a weakling. Michela bristles, but Oliver calms her and accepts the challenge. Albright leads them deeper into the second level for the fight, which Michaela considers unfair. Her friends encourage her, wanting to see her win. At the battlefield, they agree to use anti-lethal spells at half power. Oliver tries to speak, but Stacy cuts him off, warning Albright not to betray them. Albright insists he just wants to fight Nano. When the duel begins, Oliver unexpectedly swaps places with Nano. He'll face Albright himself. He says he can't stand idiots. Meanwhile, Nano and Michaela team up to face Stacy and Faye. Michaela tries to understand Stacy's hatred, but Stacy ignores her. She just wants to fight. Faye avoids Nano's attacks with evasive tactics. Oliver unleashes a powerful strike on Albright, who mocks him as average, but Oliver tells him to save his taunts for after he wins. Provoked, Albright charges. Oliver almost lands a winning blow, but Albright counters it until Oliver, using basic Lenoff techniques, wounds him. Albright is caught off guard. Faye complains about Nano's persistence. When Stacy scolds him, Faye has a flashback of when she saved him from his abusive father. Calling her his master, Faye asks her to command him. Stacy casts a spell that summons an artificial moon, awakening Faye's werewolf form. Nano and Michaela are shocked. He's now immune to their spells. Stacy, riding on Faye, declares that she'll surpass Michaela and earn her uncle's approval. Albright suggests Oliver use the chaos to retreat. Oliver refuses, his friends don't need saving, and he won't abandon them. Michaela tells Stacy she admires her will to win, but urges her to reverse the transformation. Werewolf hybrids suffer from turning. Hurting a friend over a duel isn't worth it. Stacy remembers her childhood pain, how she longed for her father's praise. Convinced she wasn't his real daughter, she vowed to earn his acknowledgement someday. Bitter, she asks Michaela what she could know of that pain, someone who had everything handed to her. As the fight resumes, Nano tells Michaela that their opponents are giving their all, so it would be disrespectful not to do the same. Michaela agrees. She apologizes to Stacy for always bossing her around, and swears to fight with everything she's got. Oliver questions Albright's overconfidence, mocking his strategy and provoking him to lose focus. Meanwhile, Stacy prepares to finish off Michaela, but is blindsided by a lightning strike. Michaela had modified her spell to pierce Faye and overload his skin with electricity, giving Nano the opening to end the match. Stacy rises again, but Michaela defeats her a second time and lectures her on agility and strategy, frustrating her further. Albright tries to overpower Oliver with brute force but falls into a counterattack. Oliver uses the moment to land a blow and cast a spell, winning the fight. Stacy, refusing to surrender, challenges Michaela repeatedly and keeps losing until she finally breaks down in tears. Faye comforts her, admitting they never hated Michaela, just envied her perfection. He reveals Stacy is also Theodore McFarlane's daughter, a fact hidden due to her status in a secondary clan. Stacy's true motive was earning recognition from their father. Michaela is shocked, and Nano gently encourages Stacy to stop trying to replace someone else and just be herself. Her words move Stacy, who agrees to try. Oliver reflects that anyone who faces Nano ends up changed and suggests Albright should do the same. Albright, however, shares a painful childhood memory. After losing a game of chess to a servant girl named Emma, his father electrocuted him and erased her entire family, instilling in him the belief that losing meant dishonor. Since then, he's vowed to always demean others to uphold his family's legacy. Unwilling to accept defeat, Albright summons venomous bees and demands to erase everyone's memories of the duel. Stacy attacks a bee, triggering an onslaught. The group flees to a shelter created by Katie and Guy, and as the bees converge, Katie burns insect-repellent incense. Albright surrounds them, but the group refuses to surrender. Michaela, with the group's support, reveals her elven heritage for the first time. As the bees break in, Oliver and Michaela cast a powerful combined spell that destroys most of the swarm. Nano then rides her broom to face Albright, easily eliminating the remaining bees and knocking him from the sky with a single strike. She declares that their fight will be free of laws, gods, or legacy, just them. Albright, finally defeated, finds peace in the honorable loss. Stacy confronts Michaela, upset that she never used her full power in their duel. Michaela explains she didn't want to rely on her elven magic. She just wanted the moment to last, since they hadn't truly spoken since age 12. She shares a cherished memory of them as girls, revealing she's always seen Stacy as her sister. Stacy, touched, pretends to brush it off, but gives her a new memory in return. Albright accepts Oliver's extended hand and promises to return stronger. With the battles over, Oliver declares it's time to return to school. But just as they prepare to leave, magical beasts appear and take some of the group captive. Kimberly's student council marches determinedly through the halls, intent on rescuing the students kidnapped by Ophelia, now seemingly consumed by her own spell. Lasidi urges immediate action, blaming everyone for what happened, and Godfrey agrees, regretting their delay. Withrow asks Godfrey to take charge if anything happens. They arrive at the Labyrinth gates, ready to intervene. Meanwhile, Oliver and his friends are disheartened that Pete hasn't returned. Michela urges trust in the senior students, but Guy wants to act himself. Oliver insists they can't do anything right now. Nanatsu bluntly states Pete may already be dead, based on battlefield survival rates back home. Oliver counters, saying the Chimera's capture, not kill. As tensions rise, Michaela reminds them to attend class, arguing won't help. Later, Oliver visits his brother, Gwen, and asks if he can rescue Pete. Gwen and Shannon are assisting the council, but warn that reaching Ophelia's base on the 3rd level is difficult. Shannon reassures Oliver it's not his fault and promises to help. Distraught, Oliver walks through the rain and meets Tullio, who jokingly warns him not to do anything reckless. Katie pleads with Professor Luther, but he explains teachers can't interfere until 8 days pass to stop students from relying on adults. Oliver had asked Michaela to convince her father to help, but he refused, saying power is needed to protect friends. Michaela confesses she plans to enter the labyrinth alone to take responsibility, but Oliver refuses to let her go alone. Their argument is interrupted by Milligan, who insists they talk and find Katie. Milligan offers Katie a deal, help her in exchange for Pete's rescue. Katie agrees quickly, despite Oliver's objections. Milligan explains Ophelia is using students to create synthetic beasts, targeting males for their mana. Learning Pete is a reversey, Milligan fears Ophelia may kill him early. She proposes a plan. Katie assists her research, and in return, Milligan will train them and find Ophelia's location. Katie convinces her friends, despite Oliver's suspicions. Later, Michaela and Katie find Nanatsu, who is waiting prepared to rescue Pete or recover his body. Katie is sad she can't join, but Nanatsu reassures her and asks her to take notes instead. Guy, left behind, gives Oliver Trebijo seeds that create shelters, along with food rations and his trust. That night, Milligan leads the group into the labyrinth. Pete awakens in a mysterious chamber, surrounded by unconscious students. Ophelia appears and speaks cryptically about their fate. Pete feigns sleep, terrified. Milligan reveals to the group that Ophelia descends from succubi who once bred hybrids in their wombs. Now Ophelia uses kidnapped male students to fuel the creation of magical beasts. Milligan hands out potions to guard against Ophelia's perfume-based control. Elsewhere, Godfrey and the Council battle Ophelia's beasts. They reunite with Walker, who provides a detailed map of the 3rd level. Though he hasn't located Ophelia's base, they're grateful for his help. Meanwhile, Milligan's group faces a powerful chimera. She uses it to teach them how to fight high-level magical beasts, emphasizing teamwork and strategic thinking. After dispatching the creature, she tells them to prepare for the next stage, the Enchanted Forest on the 2nd level. Carlos reveals to Godfrey that his first approach to Ophelia was an order from his family, but over time, he genuinely began to wish for her happiness. In the Enchanted Forest, Milligan hurries the group along, warning that Ophelia's chimeras may strike at any moment. Though the students enjoy brief rest and Guy's cakes, they remain alert. Oliver cleverly plans to use Guy's Trebijo seeds as distractions in battle, earning Milligan's praise. In private, he asks Teresa about his brothers. She tells him they're nearing the 3rd level, and despite orders to escort him out, offers to scout ahead, citing her new authority after the coronation. Milligan then presents the Erminsel tree, an ancient towering relic, as the path forward. When Oliver asks why there's a sun in the labyrinth, she explains it's a remnant of lost magical tech that never sets, allowing plants to thrive endlessly in the so-called paradise. Upon nearing Ophelia's territory, they meet the Occidental, a territorial beast now wounded by chimeras. Milligan prepares for battle, but Nanatsu calms the beast by apologizing for their intrusion. Understanding their intent, the Occidental allows them to pass, impressing everyone. Elsewhere, Stacy journeys through level 2 with Lynette, determined to save Faye. Her anger surges when Lynette brings up Michaela, hinting at deeper tensions. Back with the main group, tragedy strikes as they witness a chimera kill the Occidental. Enraged and focused, the kids launch a coordinated attack. Nanatsu slices a limb, Oliver and Michaela weaken its defenses, and Oliver finishes it off with lightning. Milligan praises their teamwork, but warns that learning an enemy's weakness often makes them more dangerous. After a night in a cave, Milligan questions why they're risking everything for Pete. Oliver recalls how Pete, despite being powerless and terrified, stood with them on their first day an act of courage that cemented their bond. Milligan appreciates his sincerity but remains curious about Oliver's strength despite his apparent lack of talent. She shares a theory that some event in his past forced him to compensate, then apologizes for overstepping. Meanwhile, Pete helps Albright awaken. Realizing they're trapped, Albright notices Pete's female form and deduces why he's resistant to the perfume. Understanding the situation's urgency, Albright injures himself to retrieve hidden tools, an explosive orb, smoke bomb, and a signal for help. He entrusts Pete with the plan, placing his life in Pete's hands and asking him to reveal his name, signaling the start of their escape. Young Ophelia talks with Carlos about strengthening magical lineages, claiming she can give birth endlessly without consequences. Carlos, disturbed, reminds her there are more meaningful ways to connect with people. Meanwhile, Katie and Guy anxiously wait for news. Katie encourages optimism, trusting Oliver and the others, while Guy worries, especially since Oliver is the only boy in the group and might be affected by Ophelia's perfume. Katie blushes at the thought, but insists Oliver wouldn't fall for it. In the labyrinth, Oliver helps Nano walk while struggling with the effects of the perfume himself. Nano grows insecure when he pulls away, thinking he dislikes her, but he reassures her, explaining the perfume is affecting him physically. Milligan bluntly clarifies that he's aroused, shocking Nano. Seeing their innocence, Milligan tells Michaela she has no intention of interfering between them. She then hands Oliver a potion to suppress the perfume's effects. Soon, they reach a swamp. Oliver tells Teresa to return to the surface for her safety. Milligan takes this opportunity to teach them the Lennoff-style lake walk technique, which requires spatial magic. Nano volunteers first but sinks. Oliver follows, using mana control similar to his grave step, and successfully walks on water, inspired by memories of his mother. He then helps Nano learn the technique, and finally, Michaela tries it too, succeeding with Milligan's encouragement. Milligan quietly hopes they all return safely. Elsewhere, Lynette and Stacy prepare incense to fly across the swamp in segments. Oliver's group continues by boat, but Milligan grows suspicious at the lack of magical beasts. Suddenly, they are ambushed by Cyrus and his bone dragon. He mocks them, asking why she's leading 3 corpses to their deaths. Milligan stalls while preparing a spell. Michaela tries negotiating, offering information in exchange for safe passage. Cyrus isn't interested, but before he can act, a water chimera attacks his dragon, allowing the group to escape. Nano then asks what it means to be someone's last visitor. Oliver explains it's the person who witnesses another being consumed by a spell. Meanwhile, Carlos and Godfrey reflect on their past with Ophelia. Godfrey remembers first meeting her perfume overwhelmed him, and he resorted to pain spells to resist it. Ophelia found his efforts ridiculous but strangely endearing. Over time, they grew close. She healed him during training and worked with their group as a medic, but after being accused of manipulating Godfrey, she lashed out, killing her bullies, and later even turned on their comrade Tim, shattering Godfrey's belief in her. Back in the present, Pete and Albright wait for a chance to escape. Once Ophelia leaves, Pete uses one of Albright's enchanted orbs and escapes to the surface, tossing a signal orb into the air in hopes that someone will find him. The light from Pete's rescue orb reaches the search parties scattered throughout the labyrinth. Meanwhile, Pete, sinking into the swamp, clings to life with a desperate desire to see his friends again, until Oliver's voice cuts through the fog. Pete opens his eyes to see his friends, and Oliver embraces him tightly, a moment so raw it even moves Milligan. But their reunion is cut short by Ophelia's arrival. Surprised by the crowd and stunned to find Pete is a reversee, she asks Milligan what she wants. Milligan simply says the kids are there for their friend and asks her to let them go, claiming Pete's absence won't affect her experiments. But Ophelia declares she's reached the pinnacle of Salvadori magic and needed someone to test it on. As she begins casting, Milligan warns her to stop and commands the students to attack, but Ophelia's barrier keeps them at bay. Far off, other students watch the enormous sphere rising, Ophelia's grand area. Michaela realizes they are now in a sealed world where the caster's rules dominate. Milligan is stunned. Few mages ever achieve such a feat. Stacy and Lynette arrive, confused, but Milligan explains that Ophelia, rejecting the idea of creating perfect life, chose infinite, flawed chimera creation. Now they're trapped unless Ophelia dies or breaks the spell. The team quickly forms ranks. Michaela and Milligan launch a coordinated magical assault, destroying several chimeras. Ophelia laughs, impressed, but Milligan is baffled that she retains her sanity. She taunts Ophelia about her failure with Godfrey, comparing her to a swamp snake in love with a unicorn, suggesting she only wanted him for his seed. Enraged, Ophelia sends her chimeras after Milligan, who retaliates with her snake eye, but it fails. Ophelia smashes her into the ground, breaking her bones. Laughing through the pain, Milligan scorns Ophelia's regression to childish resentment, prompting a fatal response. Ophelia finishes her off without mercy. Elsewhere, we glimpse the past. Carlos and Godfrey once tried to pull Ophelia back after she'd begun her descent, but she scoffed at their regrets. Back in the present, Oliver rallies his injured group. He assigns Nano the task of killing Ophelia while the others provide cover. They launch into the sky on brooms, but Stacy and Michaela are quickly shot down. Determined not to fall, Oliver is soon overwhelmed as well, leaving Nano alone. Despite Ophelia's relentless defense, Nano cuts through until Ophelia, crying, catches her off guard and strikes her down. Wounded, Nano apologizes for doubting Oliver, saying she couldn't kill a boy who still looks like a scared child. As Charmers close in, Pete rises to stand beside Michaela, ready to fight. Watching Oliver cradle Nanao, Ophelia feels a deep loneliness. Her tears flow freely as she remembers the bonds she lost, wondering if being born a woman doomed her to love and pain. Suddenly, Carlos and Godfrey appear. They tell her they'd come for her. Carlos approaches, undeterred by her strikes, and takes her necklace. He opens the barrier with a sacred song. Godfrey explains that Carlos, as a castrato, is immune to her seductive magic and was always meant to bring her back if she fell. Carlos embraces her, fulfilling his promise. Together, they vanish into the grand area. Soon after, all groups converge on Oliver's team. Everyone survives, and Pete is finally safe among his friends again. A few days later, life returns to normal at Kimberly. Oliver reflects that Ophelia's fate, consumed by her own magic, is the ending every mage quietly longs for.